Hi there, folks. Spencer Rempel, the Moose Whisperer, coming at you with great outdoorsman and hunting stories from around the world. And this one's coming to you right from here in northern Alberta. This is my good friend Clayton. And Clayton's got a great story to tell us today. He's got a ton of stories, so you'll probably hear from him even more than just this once. But we filtered through all of them, and you know what? I think we got the best one for you. This is a bow hunting story. I'm excited to hear it. I hope you're excited to hear it, folks. Let's turn it over to my good friend Clayton. Clayton, tell us all about it. Be descriptive. We want to know.
Spencer, this is awesome. You know what? I've the Moose Whisperer, the whole thing, the hunting stories. You see a lot of it, and you just appreciate all the outdoor stories. And I appreciate the opportunity to come in here, tell a few things. And I've had some unique hunting experiences in my life. Being born and raised in Saskatchewan, where some of the best deer hunting and moose hunting is. And on the farm, and just being able to get out in the woods and get out in the back country and get out in the back 40, let's say, and just have a really good time, learn about my gun and just learn about my bow, and just get to shoot and do some things and have some really good times out on the farm. So I've had so many different opportunities in my life to get these stories, and right from the plains of Saskatchewan to the safaris of Africa. I've had an opportunity to take some nice animals in Africa. I've had some opportunities to take some nice animals, in Saskatchewan and even here in Alberta. But there is one story
that stands out above them all.
Yeah, absolutely. There is one
Nice.
story that stands out above them all, because sometimes it's not about the hunting or even the meat, the beautiful steak or the pepperoni, anything like that, feeding your family. Sometimes it's about who's with you on the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? This day, I got to go out with my dad, and I got to go out with my son. Because they all live in Saskatchewan. My son, of course, lives with me, but my dad is from Saskatchewan, so we don't get to hunt together that often on this day. But they were out for Thanksgiving, which I will say is one of my favorite weekends in Canada to be out in the field. Is Thanksgiving weekend. It's just something about it. Moose are in full, the rut, and they're enjoying running around, chasing after the females. And so that's usually my favorite weekend to be out in the field. Anyway, let's go on with the story. So, like I said, the people that you hunt with are often more important than the story itself, and so that's where this is where this is coming from. So if I could try paint a picture for you, it's around 2004, 5-ish. We head out from our town in Morinville, and it's just one of those mornings where it's really, really foggy. And I had my big diesel truck, and I fired up the old Cummins, and if I'm being honest, I wasn't really prepared to take a moose that day. I was prepared to spend time with Dad and spend time with my son. And so if a moose happened to, come in the way, sure, I would have to be something pretty special in order for me to do it. And so I headed out north of a small little lake called Half Moon Lake in Alberta. And so, it's a nice little spot, and away we go. I've got my bow with me. At that time, I was using a fantastic bow. One of my favorite bows I've ever owned. It was made by Darton. It was called the Dart Marauder, and I just loved that bow. It did everything it needed for me fast, and it was very, very, very good. I really enjoyed that bow. So I had that with me, and away we go, off the three amigos heading into the bush. And it was just so exciting to have Dad there on the passenger side and having a couple of conversations, and then having my son Trevor in the back seat. And he was only about 9 or 10 years old at the time. We head out, we're drinking our coffee, sipping on our coffee. And even before I got to the spot that I thought, you know what, this is going to be the spot. Even before that, I'd come over a hill, and right there, off in the mist in the right, I can still see it today. 6 moose standing there at about 180, 180, 150, 180 yards, something like that. The fog was just above their back. And so you could just see them kind of like 6 moose in the fog. And I looked and said, Dad, look. He looks over and he goes, I never thought we'd see anything this morning. And I said, "No, Dad, we're out hunting moose, but you know what? I'm surprised too, because a lot of times when you make these plans and you make these opportunities with family or whoever it might be, those are the days that the animal just decides that they're not going to show up in your life. And, and you know, it's kind of funny that way. And then you go out by yourself and there's no cameras and there's no nothing. And you're all by yourself. And all of a sudden you got, you know, a herd of moose jumping in the back of your truck. So, you know, it was that day you're kind of thinking, is this going to happen? Is it not going to happen? So right away, about 45 minutes into the trip, boom, 6 moose. You know, I thought, well, if that's all we see today, it's been a good day, because it was such a nice picture. Actually, you can picture the moose standing out there, kind of scattered, and then you can just picture like a heavy, dense fog, kind of pushed down on their back, and it was just really cool. You know, it was a mix of cows and it was a mix of bulls, and it was great. And so we carry on. Of course, we stopped and we looked and we sipped on our coffee and we did all those things. And the sun's starting to peek through the trees a little bit. And so, I wasn't worried about first light, because like I said, I really wasn't thinking that we were going to do anything today. We're just going to go for a ride. Let's move ahead like 3 or 4 miles. And we get going again down a gravel road. I'm still not to the spot where I think that we're going to see anything. And boom, 3 more moose. But they're kind of in the trees and they're kind of poking their heads out the trees and kind of over that caragana brush. And I'm like, what is going on? There's moose everywhere. And I didn't even really want to take one today. I just wanted to visit with Dad and, the whole thing. And so here I am. I'm like, okay, I think something's going to happen today. And I'm actually not really that prepared for it. And, you'll probably say you'll email Spencer here, my good buddy, and you'll say, what kind of hunter doesn't go out prepared? Well, that was me that day. Some days you just don't go out prepared. You go out a little bit prepared. I mean, I had some arrows and I had my bow and I had a knife, but you know what? Really, I wasn't even mentally prepared.
I think what you're really prepared for was to have a good time with your dad.
Exactly.
Spend time with him. And if you happen to see a moose, which was, the chances are probably greater that you won't see one, that you will see one.
Well, that's right. And so far we're at 9 and we're an hour and a half into the morning.
Yeah.
So we get going again and we're down the road again. And, and all of a sudden we're at a place called, in Alberta, it's called Tuatna. They have a ski hill there. It's kind of a really nice area. And there's some crown land over there. And I think everybody knows what crown land is. And so, you know what? I'm driving against this crown land. And wouldn't you know it? There's another one. So now we're at number 10. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not going to get many opportunities. And sometimes you don't get opportunities to, fill your tags. And instead you're taking all your tags that you've got, your deer, your elk, your moose, your bear, whatever. You're putting it in a pot of water in November and saying, I'm going to have tag soup. And so you never get to hang it on an animal, right? So here I am thinking, you know what? I better take a crack. But I was going to have to close some distance. And so this is where it gets, I thought, you know what? This is sitting up in the crown land. It was actually sitting up on a abandoned railroad. The railroad was out. And so, that is crown land. And so here I'm thinking to myself, I think I better take a crack at this one. This is a nice moose. I mean, it wasn't your typical Yukon moose at 55 inches and, just big and, the whole thing. It wasn't that, but it was a nice moose. It was a good eater. It was a beautiful thing to bring home for some nice meals, some, and all that. And so, I thought, I'm going to do this. So I said, Dad, we're going to park this. And I said, Trevor, just take your time here. You can open the window. But I said, you guys stay at the truck here. I got to close the distance on this moose. And I needed to close probably 80 yards where I thought I could get a really good shot and one that would be, a deadly shot. You don't want to take a shot that's not intended to do its purpose, because then if you're shooting from too far with the bow, it's no good. It's no fair to the animal. It's just not right. So I knew that I needed to close the distance, and in my head, I was thinking, you know what? If I don't close, or he busts me, or I can't get it, and I can't get behind the next bale or the next whatever, the next tree to hide for 5 minutes, and it runs away, it's okay. We still had fun. And so I started to, get my stuff together, and I told Dad, I said, you just stand here and just watch, and you'll know when I take a shot, because you should be able to see me the whole time. And so I started walking away, and I look back over my shoulder, and I see now I got my son Trevor. He's up on the roof of the truck. He's thinking, well, this is good theater, and he's a young boy. He's learning, and he's just enjoying being out with his grandfather and his dad, I think. And he wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. He had seen me bring animals home before, but to be right there in the thick of it. And of course, I reminded both Dad and him to just keep your visiting to a dull roar instead of yelling. And so, there's Trevor up on the roof, and there's Dad kind of leaning up against the hood, like the old farmer in Saskatchewan, leaning up against the hood and just sort of watching. So I start to close the distance, and I'd made up about 40 yards, and it does take some time to close that distance, but I did, on a combination of getting behind a tree or getting behind a tuft of grass. So as long as you got the time and you're not too aggressive on it, that's what I did. And so we were able to close that distance. It probably took about 25 to 30 minutes, if I'm remembering correctly.
Wow.
It wasn't super long, but it wasn't also like just kind of getting up out of the truck and walking over to a good shooting spot. So I loaded an arrow, and I pulled back, and I just, give it that breath. You take a little breath, fill your lungs with some air, release that air, and let it fly. And I let it fly, and here we are. We've got a dead moose. And you know what? Dad is back there. Did you get him? Yeah, I got him, Dad. And my son is pretty excited about it all. And so right away, the practical part of me says, oh man, I've got to load this moose into the back of my truck now. I've got a 9-year-old young boy who's strong. And I got my dad who's, up in age and has some heart issues and all those things. And you don't want to, have him lifting on it. So I'm thinking, all right. So I watched the moose. It kind of went away, and it fell over and died. And so now I've got to walk back to the truck, and all the way back, I'm thinking, now what? We got to retrieve this. And I've got me and quite a large truck, a big dually Cummins turbo diesel, quite tall. What do I do? So Dad, the farmer, you always have to have a farmer with you. He says, let's dig around and find out what you've got. So I looked in the back of the truck, and I had two 2x6 planks. I don't even know what they were there for. It was probably something to do with my skid steer company at the time. And then we dug in the toolbox, and we found 2 1.5-inch ratchet straps, like those little ones, like those little, I don't know, they're orange, sometimes they're blue, but they're only about 1 inch wide or 1.5 inches wide. And it's a ratchet strap, and you tie down cargo with it. And so Dad says, that's how we're going to load that moose. He says, that's a come along. And I thought about it. Well, it is a come along, isn't it? Sort of. So I got the truck into the position, and we got got everything, and we wrapped the thing around the horns, and you know how you click that click, click.
Yeah.
And you move it about 1/8 of an inch at a time. Click, 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 click. And then you got to reposition, because now you've filled up the reel with all the strap, and you reposition it and do it again. Well, I'm here to tell you, we got the moose loaded. It felt like a calendar year, but we did get it loaded, and we got it home. And we were proud. Dad was so happy to help out and be a part of it. And, Trevor was in there, pushing and pulling and helping and doing what he could do. But if it wasn't for, those two guys and just the opportunity to get out into the field and do some hunting with them, and then coming up, Dad, the old farmer, coming up with the idea that, well, this is it's going to take a while, but we're going to get it loaded. And we did. And you know what? I thank God every day for that moment, And it was because of Spencer that, you know, kind of, he says to me, you know what, you've got a lot of good stories. And I said, yeah, I don't know if they're that good, but, and he said, go think of one. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to talk about this one. And it really brought back some really good memories. And you know what, the opportunity to spend time in the field with your dad or with your son. And so I thought about that. And I thank God every day that, you know, first of all, for the opportunity to get out there and do that. And then, you know, throughout the years, God has been very good to our family and has provided many other opportunities, maybe not moose, but deer or elk. That's probably the best one day, 10 moose, one dead, Dad, Trevor, and just an ingenious way to load it, get it home. And you wanted a story.
I love that story. I love that story. You know what, folks? It really shows so much about what hunting is about. I was so excited to hear Clayton going to tell this story because he's taken a lot of big animals that he could brag about with size and difficult hunts and that. But no, the story that sticks out most in his mind is that special time he spent with his dad and he spent with his son, and how all three of them together got that entire hunt done. They were all using different skills and working together. And just as men, it's those times that are really important, that really stick in our mind, don't they?
It's true. It's true. And you know what? A guy, after you tell the story, I'm thinking, well, I better run out and get prepared for this fall because you know, the whole thing.
Yeah, because it's going to make some more memories.
I may or may not have a moose living right at the house, so I don't know.
Right on. Yeah, some easy hunting.
Well, yeah.
Just drive the tractor right up to it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Thanks for watching, folks. It's a great story from Clayton. Get out and hunting, and that with your friends and your family. And when you do, you know, it's not always about what you take. Sometimes it's about the experiences and just the time, spending time together. Heck, when you're out, I must get out and probably hunt 25 times before I ever get to pull the trigger a lot of times, right? So it's about those experiences with friends and family and the time shared.
100%. You know, if you got the opportunity, and I haven't been out the last few years. I got a couple of really close friends that you know, I tease about coming out and showing them what to do. But I think, you know what, it's time to get back in the field again and make another story. So thanks, Spencer, very much. I appreciate this.
Thank you. All right, folks, that's the Moose Whisperer. Stay tuned for more stories to come. Thanks for watching.